The search. I set out in search of food. First, I decided to circle the lake. In this situation, the most obvious food source that comes to mind is aquatic life. Fish in the lake, for example. But I don't even know if any are there, and of course, I don't have the tools to catch them. It would be great if there were large game I could shoot with my rifle, but retrieving it afterwards seems like a hassle. I'll put that idea aside for now. Maybe plants then, but that's tough without any knowledge. When I checked with Nanom, it said that if I crushed a plant leaf with my fingers until tissue fluid came out, it could analyze the components adhering to my skin. So I started squishing every plant leaf I came across, one after another. Is it possible to obtain nutrients from the plants on this planet? Possible. However, this plant is not suitable for consumption. Not suitable for consumption. Not suitable for consumption. Digestible and absorbable. Oh, I put it in my mouth and it was green and incredibly awful. I spat it out immediately and instructed Nanom to only notify me when a plant was actually suitable for eating. Suitable for consumption. Finally, I tried eating the leaf, but it was unappetizing. The stem wasn't any better. When I pulled it out, there was a small potato-like growth about 3 centimeters in diameter attached to the root. I took a bite. It tasted like a raw potato. Not delicious, but maybe it'd be better cooked. All right, I'll collect these today. While I was busy gathering the pseudo-potatoes, I suddenly locked eyes with a rabbit-like, mouse-like creature about 30 meters away. It froze in place. Could it be edible? It's unfortunate, but it'll have to become my sustenance. I quickly readied my rifle and took it down with a single shot. As I approached, I saw it really did look like a cross between a rabbit and a mouse, probably weighing around 5 kilograms. Its ears were too small for a rabbit, but too large for a mouse. I poked a finger into the bullet wound and Nanom confirmed. Suitable for consumption. I decided to take it back with me. I named it a mouse rabbit. Between rabbit mouse and mouse rabbit, the latter somehow sounds more edible. Not that it really matters. I'd gathered about 20 pseudo-potatoes and caught a mouse rabbit, so I decided to head back to the rocky area for today. Surprisingly, getting food had been easier than I expected. At this rate, I might actually be able to survive. I decided to butcher the animal by the lake, then return to the rocky area to cook. I cut it up with a knife while asking Nanom for guidance on the procedure. Surprisingly little of it is edible. Just the 2 large hind legs and 2 smaller forelegs. About 1 kilogram total? Maybe only 700 grams once the bones are removed. Should I keep the fur? I don't need it now, and I don't know how to use it. It's a waste, but I'll discard it. Then I remembered something. Escape pod, respond. I tried to communicate, but there was no response. Oh well, with Iris gone, I had no real attachment to it. Back at the rocky area, I began prepping the mouse rabbit meat for cooking. First, I needed firewood. It had been ages since I cooked outdoors, probably since junior school. It was kind of exciting. I gathered some dry wood and lit it using my laser gun. Cooking was my only real hobby. I couldn't do it much on board a ship, but sometimes I'd borrow the multi-purpose room to cook for my squad. When I couldn't cook, I'd read recipes or browse gourmet websites. Grilling bone-in meat piece by piece turned out to be tricky. Without cooking utensils, this wasn't really cooking, it was just holding meat over a fire. I used some branches and makeshift tools and somehow managed to grill one leg. I bit into the thigh, it was cooked through, and tasted somewhat like chicken. A little gamey, but definitely edible. Honestly though, the flavor was plain. If someone asked whether it was good or bad, I'd say neither. Not bad, but not especially good either. As expected, there was no salt, so it tasted only of meat. Maybe my expectations had gotten too high after all the effort of butchering, gathering wood, and cooking. Just a little salt would probably make a world of difference. Salt, huh? Is rock salt something you just find lying around? It was almost evening. I should finish cooking while they're still light. Since I'd gone to the trouble, I ate all the remaining meat. I was full from the meat alone. Then I remembered the pseudo-potatoes. I tossed them into the dying fire and lightly covered them with soil. Would they cook nicely like that? Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It was completely dark now, so I decided to sleep. Alert mode, wake me at dawn. Understood. It's dawn, please wake up. Phew, I slept well today. The morning sun is dazzling. Oh, right. Nanom, how many hours in a day? Approximately 24 hours. Nice, roughly the same as my home planet. I checked on the pseudo-potatoes. Some were burnt, others looked undercooked. I peeled one and tried it. Oh, not bad. It tasted like a baked potato. That would be my breakfast. As I munched, I found myself craving salt and proper cooking utensils. When you realize you can't have something, you start to want it all the more. Today, I'd go back to foraging and exploration. I resumed circling the lake from where I left off yesterday. It was quite large, probably over 15 kilometers in circumference. There was something like an animal trail, so walking wasn't difficult. If I saw any new plants, I crushed them with my fingers. Suitable for consumption. A good start. It looked like ordinary grass, but had a pleasant aroma. Probably some kind of herb. The taste wasn't bad either. I picked 4 or 5 stalks and stuffed them into my pocket. About halfway around the lake, I spotted a small stream. That made sense. With a lake this size, a river was to be expected. I gazed at it. A river eventually leads to the sea. I'd seen the ocean on the external monitor when I descended in the escape pod. If I reach the sea, there must be salt. That's something to consider. I jumped over the stream. Thanks to my nano-enhanced muscles, I cleared the 5-meter width easily without a running start. While walking and squishing leaves, I found another edible plant after dozens of tries. It looked like leafy greens. I tried some. It was perfectly edible and felt like it could work well in a salad. I collected 5 bunches and stuffed them into my pocket. After a while, I spotted a boar-like animal drinking at the lake. It was about 400 meters away. Too bad for it. It would be dinner tonight. I needed to conserve my preserved rations as much as possible. I readied my rifle and locked on. Even at 400 meters, the scope made it easy. I was surprised by its size, but pulled the trigger. With a chun sound, the pseudo-boar fell. When I approached, I realized it was bigger than expected, well over 100 kilograms. Its tusks were nearly 30 centimeters long. I dubbed it a tusk boar. If it had charged me, I'd probably be dead. To think such dangerous creatures existed here, I shouldn't underestimate this world. Nanom confirmed it was edible. But here was the problem. I couldn't eat that much meat without refrigeration, and my current setup only allowed for simple grilling. I had no choice but to cut off just one hind leg. Even that weighed over 10 kilograms. Satisfied, I started walking back, until I heard a splash behind me. Turning quickly, I saw the boar's body being dragged into the lake by something strong enough to pull in a creature that big. I backed away from the lake fast. Between the boar and that unknown creature, it seemed my safety so far had just been luck. I needed to be more careful. Thankfully, I made it back to the rocky area. This morning, I thought of bathing in the lake, but after what I saw, no way, not for all the riches in the galaxy. Not bathing for over 2 days was starting to feel gross. What to do? For now, I'd eat. Grilling the whole leg over the fire wouldn't work. It wouldn't cook evenly. So I sliced it into thin strips and roasted them using a branch. They cooked quickly. I tore off some herb leaves, wrapped the meat in the salad greens, and took a bite. Delicious, juicy with a wild, rich flavor. Still lacking salt, but enjoyable in its own way. The herbs and veggies added a nice touch. I ate until I was full, barely cooking, but still satisfying. I saved the leftover meat for tomorrow. It should keep that long. After eating, I thought about the stream, the tusk boar, and that strange lake creature. At first, I thought the area around the lake was safe enough since it had food and water, but it was actually dangerous. If I followed the stream, I'd eventually reach the sea. Salt and seafood sounded appealing. But I still knew too little about this world. If I rushed in blindly, I could easily die. I might live and die alone on this planet. No internet, no one to talk to, no entertainment. The only joy left, food. Thinking that, I felt like maybe an adventure would be worth it. To risk my life for the one joy I have left? Not a bad idea. I was starting to get strangely excited. All right, I'll follow the river and aim for the sea. No more stagnating here. It's time for adventure. Military life is over. I'm an adventurer now. Now that it's decided, it's time to prepare. I'll leave tomorrow morning and bring the meat as a packed meal. I didn't want to put meat directly into my backpack, so I looked for something to wrap it in and found some wide, elongated plant leaves. I squished them. Not suitable for consumption. Is it okay to use them as wrapping? No problem. I gathered as many as I could and experimented with weaving them into wrappers. I'll slice the meat now and grill it in the morning. That way I'll avoid food poisoning. I'll also gather more pseudo potatoes on the way. Water can come from the river. Oh, that's right, I can bathe in the river. Preparations were quickly finished, and as darkness settled in, I decided to sleep for the day. 05, Departure and Encounter. I woke at dawn and began grilling meat. Once it was cooked, I tore off some herbs and wrapped them with the vegetables. Then I bundled everything in packing leaves, completing my meat roll bento. My backpack held a bag of processor modules, my uniform and overalls, the remaining emergency rations, 3 plastic bottles of water, and a jar of rare metals. I slung the backpack on, adjusted my blanket so it draped over both shoulders, pocketed my laser gun, and slung my rifle across my back. It had been a while since I'd carried a full load. Leaving the lake behind, I set off toward the river. Potato mimic highlight. This feature was quite convenient. It marked potato mimics in bright red when they came into view. One appeared right away. I pulled it out and stuffed the potato into my backpack's side pocket. It filled up quickly, so I stopped harvesting. I had a long journey ahead. I couldn't afford to waste time. After about 2 hours, I reached a small stream. Bathing in the lake was too dangerous because of that creature, so I decided to follow the river and find a safer spot. About 30 minutes later, I came upon a good location, a spot with a nice view and a slightly deeper pool. Perfect. The water was clear enough to see the bottom, so there were no suspicious creatures. I stayed alert for 10 minutes. Nothing. I stripped and bathed. Ugh, it's cold, but the relief of washing after 3 days made it worthwhile. I also washed my overalls. No soap or shampoo, but it still felt great. Phew, that was refreshing. I changed into my spare overalls, wrung out the wet ones, and hung them on my backpack. It looked sloppy, but it couldn't be helped. I refilled my water bottles and continued walking. After about an hour, I heard a low roaring sound. No way, I muttered and ran toward the noise, only to find a waterfall, easily over 30 meters tall. I'd only seen waterfalls in holobits before, but this one was magnificent. Also troublesome. I'd have to make a big detour. After some searching, I found what looked like an animal trail. It led away from the river, but I had no time to blaze a new path. It seemed to be heading downhill, good enough. Several hours later, I got hungry and stopped to eat my bento. Still tasty, even cold. It was around noon. Since I'd figured out how to time it, I'd added a small clock in the corner of my virtual window. After eating, I resumed walking. I was also keeping an eye out for a place to sleep before nightfall. That's when I stumbled into an open area stretching left and right. It looked man-made. I froze. A real road. Wheel tracks. Something with wheels had passed here. The road had been carved out of the mountain, about 5 meters wide. I raised my rifle and listened. All quiet. Could it be those green creatures? No, they definitely weren't intelligent life forms. Looking closer, I saw hoof prints, like from horses. Could there actually be horses on this planet? The spacing and quantity suggested a carriage with multiple horses. The hoof prints pointed left, so the carriage had come from the right. The track width indicated it was fairly large. This was it, my first sign of intelligent life. I couldn't let this chance slip by. The prints were still fresh, less than 2 days old. All right, time to get serious. Long-distance running mode. Understood. I started running, chasing the carriage. Humans inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. In long-distance running mode, Nanome enhances lung cell performance to maximize gas exchange and boosts blood oxygen levels. Running becomes almost effortless. This allows for sustained high-speed running, but it's unhealthy and not meant for regular use. I'd been running for hours. I must have covered over 100 kilometers, but still hadn't caught up. It was getting late. I might have to give up for today. Then I picked up the sounds of a struggle with my enhanced hearing. The road twisted through the mountains, blocking my view. I stopped and approached cautiously. As the road curved sharply left, I saw the scene, about 150 meters ahead. A carriage lay overturned. 2 humanoid figures fought back to back against over 15 wolf-like beasts. I zoomed in. What the hell? They were clearly human. A man and a woman, both wielding swords, defending themselves with the carriage behind them. Bodies of humans and horses littered the ground. Damn it. I moved to shoulder my rifle. Yes, I'll help. Leave the aiming to me. Complete. Nanome responded instantly. Anticipating this, I was already pulling the trigger. Chun, chun, chun. The pulse rifle burst lasers, targeting wolves, avoiding the humans. All the wolves fell. The 2 humans collapsed as well. Damn it! I dashed forward with my enhanced legs. The full horror came into view. 10 people total. 8 men, 2 women, all in armor. Except for the final 2, all had their throats torn out. I rushed to the fallen pair. The middle-aged man was alive, but his throat was torn open. Blood gushed out. He was beyond saving. The young woman's throat was intact, but her left arm was severed below the elbow and her right leg above the ankle. She was unconscious and bleeding heavily. The man leaned against the carriage. Our eyes met. For a few seconds, he stared at me, then at her, then back. I nodded. He closed his eyes and died. I began treating the girl. She looked around 16 or 17, covered in blood, likely her own. What should I do? Please touch the blood. I did. Well, no doubt, descendants of humanity. As expected. Shocking, but not surprising. Please tie something around the wounds. Something? I spotted a horse's bridle, cut it off, and tied it above her leg and arm wounds. Gathering Nanome at your left wrist, please cut it and let her drink your blood. Cut my wrist? This guy. I needed a way to give it to her without spilling. Ah, my plastic bottle cup. I poured the blood into it. Ugh, the electromagnetic blade was sharp. Cut the vein. A green highlight marked the target vein. You could have said that sooner. Cutting slowly. Huh? No pain. Pain blocked. Are you enjoying this? The cup filled with about 400 cc's. It's also for transfusion. Wait, you can do that? I held her upper body, opened her mouth, and slowly poured it in. That's enough. Pour the rest on the wounds. Makes sense. I did. Take 2 rare metal pills, give her 8. I took out the jar, swallowed 2, and put 8 in her mouth. The pills provide Nanome the metals it needs to multiply. For normal humans, they'd be poison. Please clean cut the severed wounds. Right, the bones were exposed. Pain blocked. All right then. I used the electromagnetic knife to cut cleanly. It was gruesome. You'll need bandages. I looked for supplies. Near the carriage was a small camp, U-shaped stakes, smoldering fire, dead horses. They must have camped here overnight and were ambushed. The horses panicked, carriage flipped. The rest were tied down and killed. I climbed onto the overturned carriage. No luggage inside, but 4 leather cases had fallen off. I brought them over, opened them. First, men's clothes. Second, women's, including a dress. Hers? Third, bingo, bottles, dried herbs, and 3 rolls of cloth. How do I wrap them? First, remove the cords. Of course, I cut them off. A diagram appeared on my virtual window. Step by step, I followed it. Leg first, then arm. First aid complete. Phew. I moved her to the fire pit area, away from the corpses. Spread my blanket. It was evening. We'd stay here tonight. How long until she can move? Ideally, 1 full day of rest. As expected, time to clean this place. Being surrounded by corpses for 2 days? No thanks. First, light. Fire keeps animals away. I fed the old campfire, then made another across the clearing. Next, the wolves. Huge beasts, over 2 meters long, 35 in total. They killed 20, we finished the rest. I tried lifting one over 150 kilograms, too heavy. I dragged them into the ravine. Found her arm and leg during cleanup, gnawed and torn, but I kept them, just in case. Also secured her boots. Next, the human bodies. Too cruel to dump. They deserved burials, but no shovel. Nanom-enhanced vision helped me search. Found one mounted on the carriage. I gathered the bodies, carried them one by one. I buried them on the far side of the clearing. Strangely, she hadn't worn any armor, no protectors like the others. Maybe that's why she survived. Digging 9 graves was going to take time. 2 hours later, Nanom spoke. She is waking up. 06, Claria. I awoke, disoriented and unsure of my surroundings. It was night. I was certain of that much. I gasped and bolted upright. That's right, we were attacked by a pack of greyhounds. One by one, everyone had fallen, until only Commander Antis and I were left. And then, they lunged at me, tearing into my left arm and my leg. I lifted my left arm. It was gone from the elbow down. I looked down. My right leg was missing from the shin. Ugh! Tears welled up, but I swallowed them. Had Commander Antis saved me? I'd been treated. Oddly, there was no pain at all. Could Fowl possibly be alive? But I remembered seeing him fall to a greyhound mid-battle. I looked around, heart pounding. A man I didn't recognize was walking toward me. I felt a bit of relief when she cried out after waking, then suppressed her panic. She seemed like a rational girl. I stepped closer. "Hello there. Are you in any pain?" The words didn't matter. She wouldn't understand them anyway. What mattered was continuing the conversation. Nanom needed to learn the language as quickly as possible. I couldn't understand anything the man was saying. His attire was utterly bizarre. He wore a single-piece black garment, smooth, shimmering slightly in the firelight. It wasn't even separated into top and bottom. How did he put it on? Was it sewn closed? Was he a jester? No, he didn't look like one. He seemed young, perhaps 20. "Who are you? What did you just say?" "I see, no pain. That's good," I said, continuing anyway. It must have been awful, but don't lose heart. Good days will follow the bad. I kept talking, just to keep the words flowing. At first, I thought I'd misheard him, but I soon realized the man was speaking a completely different language. As far as I knew, there was no region where such a language was unknown. Could he be from a country I'd never heard of? "Did you save me? Where is everyone else? By the way, aren't you hungry? I have food and water," I offered, pulling out a plastic bottle and a silver-wrapped ration from my backpack and showing them to her. He didn't understand me either. He held up a clear glass bottle filled with water and a strange silver square, perhaps some kind of container. I had never seen glass so flawlessly clear. I was terribly thirsty, but that wasn't my priority. "Where is everyone?" I looked around and saw them, laid out on the far side of the clearing. Ah! Everyone. I wanted to see them. I began to crawl toward the bodies, but the man moved to block me, gesturing for me to stop. Yeah, I figured she'd try that. I had to keep her from reopening her wounds. If she got hurt again, all my efforts would have been for nothing. Time to bust out the charades. I stood, arms slightly bent and spread, walked 3 steps in the direction of the bodies, then turned and looked back. When she didn't follow, I returned and repeated the same motions, then tilted my head. Please get it. She watched me silently. Was she getting it? Maybe she thought I was offering to carry her. I hoped so. She nodded. Oh, it got through. That actually worked. It really did feel like a game of charades now, so I kept it silent. No rule against talking, but still, kind of awkward. I stepped forward and gently picked her up. It was the first time I'd ever been this close to a man outside my family. I felt tense. He walked toward everyone. Everyone. Their throats had been torn open, just like during the battle. Even Commander Antis. But each one had been laid out gently, hands clasped over their chests. This man had treated them with care and respect. He showed them to me one by one. Raynor, Simon, Arlo, Antero, Mies, Mirka, Ovo, Fal, Commander Antis. They had all served me since childhood. Fal had been my childhood friend. Tears flowed freely. I must have cried for 5 minutes. The man quietly returned me to the blanket and set me down. Whew, I never know what to do when a girl cries. She must be in shock from losing her comrades. Yeah, I get it. Well, time to get back to digging the graves. Should I try to explain? I grabbed a shovel and mimed the process. Digging, lifting, placing, covering. Still silent. Did she get it? I understood instantly. He was going to bury them. I nodded, but when he turned to begin, I stopped him. Please wait. I can't help, but I want to see them off. What kind of master would I be if I didn't at least do that? The man looked confused. I want to see them off. He waved as if giving me the floor. My turn to mime something. Right, gestures. I pointed at the bodies, then at myself, then back at them. His eyes lit up with understanding, and he nodded. Oh, he really is clever. He picked me up again and brought me over. He gave me a questioning look. Where should he put me? After a pause, he returned to the blanket. No, he didn't understand at all. Maybe that was too much to expect. I pointed at the shovel beside me, then at him. He picked it up. I mimed digging again. He followed my lead, puzzled. Then I pointed at myself and widened my eyes with my fingers. Aha! His face lit up and he made a circle with his fingers. Got it. He stacked 3 trunk cases near the bodies and set me on top. Then he began to dig. Most of the grave was already done, about 2/3. As he worked, I gazed at the faces of my fallen comrades. Tears came again. An hour passed. The grave was complete. So that's about 3 hours of digging. I was seriously impressed. One by one, he laid them in the grave with care. Then, as if remembering something, he walked off and returned, with my severed arm and leg. My boots had been removed. Seeing my own limbs like that was surreal. He gestured. Should I place these in too? I nodded. Maybe a part of me would bring them some comfort. He gestured again. Should I cover them now? I indicated I wanted to see the grave first. He understood immediately and carried me where I could look down into it. Everyone, you served me well. Your loyalty will always be the pride of Claria's life. Rest peacefully. Farewell. I spoke, then nodded to him. He gently set me back down and began to bury them. It took another hour. When he finished, I turned to face him directly. For this, I cannot thank you enough. You saved my life and gave my comrades a proper burial. I owe you a debt I must repay. I infused magic into my words and swore to the goddess Luminous. My body glowed, a sign that the goddess had accepted the vow. Yes, I cannot die yet. Whew, I'm completely spent and starving. I really don't want to move anymore today. Running, fighting, then digging graves? I thought about butchering the horse, but nah, horse the Shami sounded good though. After the burial, I returned her to the blanket. I was thinking of suggesting a meal break when she looked at me, deadly serious. I straightened reflexively. She began to speak. It was long and solemn. When she finished, she closed her eyes and glowed. What the hell? A in X 10X61C. Approximately 1 second after she closed her eyes, I detected an energy signature. What kind of energy? Unknown. If Nanam didn't know, it had to be serious. I'd ask her when we could actually talk. For now, food. She must be hungry. I pulled out a plastic bottle and 2 emergency rations. 1 savory, 1 sweet. Girls probably prefer sweet. I poured water into my makeshift cup and handed it to her. She downed it in 1 go. I refilled it. This time she only sipped. She stared at the cup. I was thirsty too. I drank a full cup. I'd have to resupply water soon. I handed her an emergency ration. She examined it curiously. Ah, right. I took it back, opened it, and mimed taking a bite. She watched, then cautiously nibbled from the corner. After that, she devoured it. Poor girl, she probably hadn't had a decent meal in ages. Judging by the group I buried, she was the youngest, probably overworked. I ate too. It wasn't bad, just missing something. Come to think of it, how was she so energetic? She'd lost an arm and leg only hours ago. Whoever healed her had to be an incredible magic user. When I made my oath, he looked utterly shocked. That was to be expected. He couldn't understand a word. He must be wondering what I swore to the goddess about. For a noble, it's not so rare, but for a commoner, it's a once-in-a-lifetime act. Later, he handed me a clear glass bottle and another container. I drank quickly, parched. He refilled it. The glass was so thin, it felt like holding air. Perfect symmetry, flawless clarity. I couldn't imagine how many gold coins it would take to make one. Then he handed me the silver box again. Curious, I gave it back. With a flick, he peeled it open like a magic trick and handed it back. What I thought was metal was actually just thin wrapping. The scent hit me, sweet. I took a bite. It was moist, delicate, and delicious. The best sweet I'd ever had. When he finished eating, he pointed at himself and said, Alan Corinth. Was that his name? I pointed at him and repeated, Alan Corinth. He nodded, beaming. Then I introduced myself. I pointed to myself. Claria Starvine. He repeated it a few times, practicing. He didn't react to the name Starvine. As I suspected, he wasn't from around here. Still, with the quality of his possessions, he had to be nobility. But I knew the noble houses of this and nearby kingdoms. I've never heard of Corinth. Feeling full and reassured that Alan Corinth was a noble, I grew drowsy. I was glad the introductions went well. Claria Starvine, a cool name. Judging by her armor and sword, she was probably a soldier, a comrade, in a sense. I still had 1,000 questions, but Claria looked ready to sleep, so I gestured for her to lie down. She murmured something and curled up on the blanket. I was tired too, but the night was still young. Emergency. I have to make Claria a prosthetic leg by morning. No, I might not have until morning. What kind of prosthetic leg are you envisioning? Something simple, doesn't need to be permanent, but stable enough to let her walk a few minutes. Only materials I have on hand. Begin design immediately. Scanning available materials. As I looked around at the parts, I remembered something terrifying. Claria had drunk a lot of water. She would need to relieve herself. She couldn't walk. And she only had 1 arm. She couldn't manage it alone. I would have to help her. My real battle was only beginning.